Good day, friends, allies, enemies, it matters not. It should be noted, though, that when I went to pull the policies off the Donald Trump website to do this video, to ensure the most accurate and up-to-date information, the website couldn't stay viable for more than 5 seconds. I don't know if there was too much traffic to it, or if the site just couldn't handle that much BS in one place. Being a little unfair, I guess. But now that America's chosen a new leader, the personality and life choices of that man up to this point are really no longer valid. The entire focus of both allies and enemies must be the policy positions and whether or not each of them is right for America. Thankfully, the President-elect has begun to give more details about those policies so we can review them. The list is growing every day, it seems, and we will still have gaps in areas we know he will pursue or a lack of specifics in some cases. We will start with analyzing everything as currently written on his campaign website before moving on to speculation on the rest. Because there is so much, I'll be breaking this down into several videos. Be sure to subscribe for the latest. This is all from Donald Trump's contract with the American voter. He starts by saying, "What follows is my 100-day action plan to make America great again." It is a contract between myself and the American voter, who, now we know, does want him. So, they must want this contract. It's a bit of a stretch, but in his mind it's certainly going to seem true. He says, he continues on, and begins with restoring honesty, accountability, and change to Washington. Therefore, on the first day of my term of office, my administration will immediately pursue the following. And he breaks it down. But first up, 6 measures to clean up the corruption and special interest collusion in Washington, D.C. First, propose a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on all members of Congress. Now comes some commentary. We'll do commentary on each step. This is something we've heard a lot, and no one's been able to do it. So let's remember, proposing and actually getting something done are very different. This has always been a popular idea. No one actually done it. This is a populist appeal for positive attention only, probably. He'd be better off pushing for changes that could affect similar results, but more on that later. Second, he says, a hiring freeze on all federal employees to reduce federal workforce through attrition. This exempts military, public safety, and public health. Now, this is a blatant reduction in the size of government policy hidden in his Clean Up Washington policy. The military exception is obviously for his GOP friends, but the safety and health exceptions are too vague. He's likely not including disliked groups like the EPA. Worse, however, is the blatant disregard for tough choices indicated by this plan. Reducing workforce through attrition is a cop-out on making tough decisions about who and what we need from our government employees. Third, a requirement that for every new federal regulation, 2 existing regulations must be eliminated. This plan, which has been begged for by regulation-hating business leaders for years, sounds so good to his base and GOP friends, but regulations do get put into effect for serious reasons. Even he isn't suggesting someone just get out a list and randomly delete 2 every time he wants a new one. This means he'll have to invent a group to review all regulations and rate them on order to be eliminated, wasting time and resources, especially if he has frozen government hiring. Many see this as being his plan to deter further meddling in American business and lives by making it unlikely anyone would promote new regulations if they know they have to get rid of 2. But it is just an excuse to get rid of regulations hated by his preferred lobbyists, while creating new regulations that serve those companies' agendas. This is directly opposed to the stated goal of relieving corruption and collusion. The implementation of this policy is crony capitalism politics on the most disgusting scale, hidden in plain sight as a plan to remove corruption. Horrible! If you really want to slow the effective influence on Washington, or at least prove that you are immune from it, you should have 5 new regulations for every one you cut. That would show them. This is the biggest point on this list that shows the influence Trump and friends want out of Washington is just the ones they don't like. Strangely, at the behest of those they do. Figures, doesn't it? Either get all special interests out, or let them compete evenly. You cannot cherry pick who can lobby, or the corruption grows a millionfold. We'll move on to fourth. A 5-year ban on White House and congressional officials becoming lobbyists after they leave government office. While the specifics would have to be hammered out as to who all he means, this is a great idea that the GOP will probably block. The biggest problem we have here is that it doesn't address any real problem. It doesn't stop lobbyists, and it doesn't stop collusion between elected officials and them. A more helpful ban would be on any lobbyist, corporate leader, or political advisor from a specific industry not being able to hold office for 5 years after leaving such a position. Better yet, a lifetime ban. For instance, a former Wall Street banker should never be in charge of bank policies. Our problem is not just influence from outside by lobbyists, it is the trend to put people like that in positions of authority in the first place. Even voluntarily, Trump isn't doing this by proposing corporate and industry insiders have prominent places in his administration. This is just another good-sounding plan that accomplishes nothing because it does not go far enough to prevent the depth of special interest influence in Washington. Fifth, he proposes a lifetime ban on White House officials lobbying on behalf of a foreign government. This is a total fluff piece. It sounds great, but it's almost impossible to enforce as long as the lobbying is not paid or official. Just try harder. Sixth, a complete ban on foreign lobbyists raising money for American elections. Also great, but here's another one where the problem is not with the ban, but with what is being ignored. Tracking such money would be very hard, rendering such a ban completely pointless, especially when a more aggressive approach could wipe out the perceived problem here while tackling an even bigger one. Expand this ban to all registered lobbyists in Washington and sitting officials, elected or appointed. Yes, this would mean a sitting congressman, for example, could not raise funds for himself or his party. Wah, 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 go ahead and cry about it. You want corruption and influence lowered as much as possible from Washington, then it's time to make the tough calls, not unenforceable no-brainer statements.